A one and a two and a chick-a-boom a chick.
Hey, Remodeler. Thank you for listening to Remodelers on the Rise. Today I got a recording of a speaking gig I did back at the start of May 2019. It was at the beautiful Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. And it's something that the State of Michigan Home Builder Association puts on called the Remodelers Workshop. And we talked about three distinct areas, one being your marketing plan as a remodeler, two being your sales process, and three being the customer experience. I can't remember if that's in the correct order. You'll have to listen to find out. But I ended up recording on my phone. I put the phone in my pocket, so the quality of the audio is really sharp. And I think the conversation, I think if you listen to this, you will definitely find a takeaway or two that you can implement into your remodeling business. And isn't that the point of this? Not to listen and hear a bunch of new ideas to overwhelm you with more and more and more ideas, but rather to find something that you actually really like, that you know would work in your business, and to implement it. So keep that in mind as you listen to this, and thank you again for listening. So marketing, the definition of marketing is simply this: getting someone who has a need to know, like, and trust you. Getting someone who has a need to know, like, and trust you. You could have 20 marketing experts up here, and everybody will kind of give a little different definition of marketing. That one, to me, just really cuts to the chase and simplifies it. Know, like, and trust. So, for example, if you get a really glowing Google review from a homeowner, that's playing, and I'm a prospect that reads that, that's building a little bit of trust, right? Maybe depending on how good it was, maybe even a little bit of know and like, but it's probably even more like trust. That plays, we get good solid testimonials, third-party endorsements, that really builds trust. You know, when I tell you a really good story of how I started my business and whatnot, I'm maybe building some know and like, right? Maybe even some trust because it's like, oh, he was in this industry before. So all of the marketing efforts that we do build know, like, and trust. So if I were to kind of condense, if somebody was to say, Kyle, you got 15 minutes to talk about marketing, what are the top things that you would talk about? I'm not going to talk about everything, but in my work of just working with builders and remodelers, it's all I do every day for the last decade. Let me kind of toss the things up the list that I think are top priority. One is you have got to track where your leads are coming from. Every prospect, every call you get, how did you hear about us? No, tell me more about that. How did you hear about us? Make sure we are tracking that. Okay, and so what gets measured gets improved. And if we are able to, if you're making your marketing decisions based on, well, I think we're getting a decent number of people from that, or I think we're doing this, or you're getting ready to renew an ad, and it's time to actually say, are we going to renew this for the year, for this next issue? And you're like, well, I think it did all right. Every marketing dollar you have needs to be held accountable, meaning we need to know if it's working or not. Right? So it starts with tracking your leads. Just doing that and paying attention to that throughout the year can go a long, long ways. Do we make better business decisions when we have good data? Yeah. Right? Are our jobs more profitable when we actually pay attention to my quoted number of labor hours versus my actual? If we actually pay attention to our job costs? Am I going to be a better business owner if I actually review my P&L every month and study it and understand it? Absolutely. Right? Data helps us make decisions. And when it comes to marketing, tracking how did you hear about us is a key part of that. Okay? Could be a good takeaway. Your marketing budget, just paying attention to where you're spending your money. If what I see a lot of times is if you went back to 2018 and I said, how much did you spend on marketing? A lot of times I'm going to kind of hear, well, I don't know, like 6 now, maybe up to 10. Pay attention to that. Look at the details of that. Know where you're spending your money. And just as importantly, how much money do you have to spend in marketing this year? What is your budget for marketing? People will come up to me and say, hey, Kyle, what do you think of this idea? Hey, Kyle, what do you think of this idea? And my first question is always, well, how much do you have to spend on marketing this year? Because this may be a great idea, but it also may end up being 60% of your marketing budget. And if you only have this much money, well, we need to design this marketing plan a little bit differently for you. So tracking how they're hearing about you, and what is your marketing budget, and actually setting a number and paying attention to how much you're spending on it. All right, next item. If I did a project, my wife and I did a project with you 2 years ago. Who am I going to pick on here? Was it Jim? Okay. I have glasses now, but I don't even need them. Look at that. They're just for looks. My wife really likes how they look. She thinks I'm much smarter looking. The problem, I do. Russ is like, yeah, you do. You look like way better. Like it hides the forehead. It hides the receding hairline. Like it does look good. The problem is it's just for like reading up close. So we were going to dinner last week. She's like, you should wear your glasses. But I'm wearing glasses so that my eyes stop hurting. But when I'm at dinner and not looking at something, anyways. Kyle, stay focused. How much time do we have? Why am I going down that rabbit hole, Tony? Jim, I did a project with you 2 years ago, a nice kitchen remodeling project. Have I heard from you since then? Have I heard from you? So we did a project with you 2 years ago. We shook hands. Thanks, Jim. Good job. Appreciate it. Have I heard from you since then? In what way?
Oh, probably there's always something, little issue, a door was warped. And
Okay. So maybe I had a little issue and I called you. Maybe we ran into each other at the grocery store. Outside of that, anything? Okay. Where I'm going with this is when we think of our marketing, the majority, I'm casting a little bit of a net on this, but I'm guessing if we went person by person, the answer is going to be yes. The majority of the dollars that you're putting in your business bank account this year, actual sales, dollars, is coming from either repeat work from previous clients or referrals from previous clients. And your answer to that, don't feel bad because that's the answer I hear a lot. This is your most valuable marketing asset, your previous client list. What is marketing? Building know, like, and trust. You know who you have know, like, and trust with? People you've done a great job for. Where's the majority of your dollars coming from? Referrals, repeat work from them. Yet we don't proactively reach out to them hardly at all. That's just not smart, right? Now, why are we not doing that? Is it because you don't think it's a good idea? No. It's because there's a lot going on in the business. You want to do it, right? But it's just time constraints. So just some ideas related to that. Number one, get your previous client list organized. Like how many people are actually on that? If you're using QuickBooks, start there. Export that list out and get that full list. It could also be just as practical as if, for example, office manager, office extraordinaire. What title do you want?
Office manager.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll work.
I thought extraordinaire was a good one, though. Yeah. Doggone it, I want office extraordinaire, Kyle. That does sound good. Updating business card. Takeaway, I'm changing my title. If you gave, and maybe you're going to make these calls, but as an example, if you look at your previous client list, you guys have 150 names on there. If you said, here's a very practical idea. Adrian, here's 3 names this week, and just when you're out and about, when we have a minute, call these 3 people, just previous clients, and the conversation is, hey, I was just thinking about you today and just wanted to call, check in how you and the family are doing, and see how the job we did for you is holding up. That's it. Right? Probably 4 or 5 out of the 10, you're going to leave a voicemail. Maybe 3 or 4 you're actually going to talk to. One of my clients in California has been doing this the last few weeks. I have all kinds of stories to share about this approach. And he's like, I talked to one of our previous clients, and they have a master bathroom project that we're going to be going out and seeing. Like, he was excited when he got on the phone. His name's Pete Dodson. He's like, we got a lead out of it. And then just the other ones were just good conversations. Like, oh, it was good to hear from you. No, everything's great. Thanks for checking in. But when you're top of mind, what we're talking about here is we need to stay top of mind. When you're top of mind, now all of a sudden next week when they're talking to their neighbor about a project, you're just there, right? Oh yeah, Adrian, gave me a call last week. He'd be great. Let me refer you over to him. So whether it's as practical, as simple, as effective as just picking up the phone and calling previous clients, whether it is sending out an email once a month so that you're top of mind there's a lot of different ways to go about it, but we have to do something to reach out to our previous clients because they're your most valuable marketing asset. Cool? All right. You kind of look like Rory McIlroy, by the way. Do you get that a lot? Okay. Really? He's a stud, man. Sorry, I had to. I was like, why does he look from? Oh, it's Rory. Yeah, sorry. Sorry if that was like, Kyle, I don't need to hear that again. Google reviews. Go home, I was gonna be rude and say if an afternoon session's really boring, like pull it up on your phone, right? There's 3 sessions in the afternoon, by the way, after you guys get back from lunch. But sometime today, pull up and just type in your business name on Google, and what you're gonna see is a listing there, and you're gonna see either some stars or no stars. How many Google reviews do you have? Does anybody know that answer, by the way?
28.
Nice. Now, either you're just saying that and guessing, or
Well,
it sounded, but the way you said that,
proactive effort to get reviews.
love it. The way you said that, I'm like, oh crap, she knows that, right? How many did you have 6 months ago? Ish.
9.
9 to 28 in 6 months. Why did you focus on that? Google reviews.
Just trying to build our business.
Build our business, build our brand
In 2 weeks.
in 2 weeks. Even better,
Yeah, or less. So,
right?
yeah.
I like the 6 month thing better because it's kind of like I'm steady, I'm going, but fair enough, right? You put it, I'm going to actually say something about the 9 to 20 in a second. All it is, why is that important? Google is the 800-pound gorilla, right? And if you go more and more and more, people value reviews. They look at that. It helps with your search engine optimization. Google continually, a year from now and 2 years from now, are going to continue to change their algorithm. We don't need to know about the details of the algorithm, but know that reviews are going to continue to get more and more important. Okay? And when you go onto your website, or when you go search your business name in there, or search kitchen remodeling your city name, and you have 1 review, or maybe you have 2 reviews, or you have 1 negative review and no positive reviews, I'm quickly clicking off that thing. Right? And the answer to getting more of them is just hand-to-hand combat. Like pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, something I'm working on this month is to get 5 Google reviews. You guys can come on and get 5 Google reviews. And then they say, oh yeah, I'd be happy to do that. You send them instructions on how to do that. Then they don't do it. And then you follow up with them and reach out to them again. Practical, very practical, and it's very important. And all it takes is just a little bit of concerted focus on it to do it. The only concern I have of 9 to 28 in 2 weeks is one of my clients did something real similar to that where they kind of sent it out to all their clients and we're like, yes, this is awesome. And then like a few weeks later, they all disappeared. Because Google's like, time out. You've been in business for a long time. You had like, in this case, it was like 2. Now you're up to 20. Something's fishy. And it killed it.
It's called great employee.
Yeah, so it should, you guys, not 9 to 20, you guys should be fine in the but just be careful. Like part of it is like, oh, I'm just going to send it out to my full list and get a bunch. Just be careful with that. So Google reviews. So we've talked about tracking our leads. We talked about marketing budget, previous clients, Google reviews. When somebody refers you, how much time? You're going to, see, I put Tony in charge. Here's a business lesson. You put somebody in charge of something, you delegate it. It's important to pay attention, but it's also important to not micromanage. And I'm kind of joking here, but I'm also real serious. Like when you put somebody on your team in charge of it, put them in charge of the result of that. Like if the timing is off and Tony messes that up, that's 100% his responsibility. But here I am, like 2 minutes, hey, how are we doing with this? How are we close? So it's when we delegate, trust your people. Let them succeed and then give them more, or let them fail. He's not going to fail, especially now that I've brought it up. But anyways, so you'll tell me. It'll be actually interesting. Some people, when they're timekeeper, make kind of a fun noise when the time comes up. Maybe they do animal sounds, maybe they do something else. I don't know what Tony's going to do.
There's a lead in.
I don't know what Tony's going to do. Referrals. Yeah. Referrals. There's 2 parts of referral. One, when somebody refers you, and maybe it doesn't even turn into anything. And then when somebody refers you somebody and it actually turns into a paying project. Referrals are gold, right? They're important. There's no like and trust that really delivers right over to that referral source. The question I have is, what are we doing for people that refer us? It could be a quick text just saying, hey, thanks so much. I just heard from Joe and Sally, and I really appreciate it. That's actually a really good thing to do because a lot of times you'll get some context and some details about them from the person that referred you. Maybe you have some thank you cards on your in your office, and you just have some $10 Starbucks cards or whatever, and you send the person that referred a note that says, thanks a latte. Oh, he likes it. He's like, I'm writing that down. That's gold right there. Right? Mike's like, I will never do that. Kyle, that is corny. That is cheesy. I will not do it. Right? Good. Right? So just those little things like that. So recognize it. Emphasize it. And then secondly, when it turns into a project, do something even more than that. Right? So it could be, donating $75 to the charity of their choice, or a $100 dinner gift card, or depending on the size of the project, maybe like a $50 dinner gift card, or something along those lines. There is a study done. Time for that? Okay, I'll wrap up this thought and then we'll do takeaways. There's a study that was done That was it? You weren't inspired by the animal sounds or anything like that?
No, I'm going to say this when it happens. It's more
Spur of the moment.
for the moment,
Okay.
not directly.
Understood. Yes, sir. Okay. Now you got 5 minutes on the clock?
I do.
Good. Just confirming it. I wasn't micromanaging. Study shows that when you reward somebody that refers you, they are much more apt to refer you again in the future. Call that our natural sin nature. Call that our, I don't know what, I'm not going to go that road, but like just, we like, it's just, we like it, right? And I find myself that way of like, you know what, when I'm rewarded and recognized when I refer somebody, even though I'm like, look, I didn't refer them because, I wanted something in return, but it is nice and I'm more apt to do it. And I've noticed that in my own behavior. So rewarding them, and frankly, it's just a nice thing to do because you are stinking appreciative of it, right? Okay. All right, so we'll pause there. Give me some takeaways from that little spiel on marketing.
I'm done. I'm moving on to sales. Is our time up? Yeah.
We've got, hold your horses. When we get done with the 15 minutes, then we get a little 5 minutes for Kyle to wrap up his thought. And then we get that remainder of the time to focus on takeaways. Brenda was saying something.
Know your budget.
Know your budget, your marketing budget. What was one of your takeaways, Russ, from that session?
I'm in sales.
Okay, you're already in sales. All right. We'll do that next. Pardon?
Know where your leads are.
Know where your leads are coming from so that we know what's working and what's not working. We're not just relying on our gut or our memory of it. Good.
Big one is call your previous clients. You've been preaching that to us for years, and I always had great intentions on doing it.
Yeah.
Sit down with a list, and I might make 1 or 2 calls, and then it goes away.
Right. See, and the key with that, I've been kind of tweaking how I've been saying that in your case, like office manager Kim just gives you literally 2 names. Like, Tony, this week, these are the 2. That's much easier than, okay, I've got a list of 50. Now you're spending 5 minutes just thinking through who do I want to call versus, okay, I've got 2, it's simple. So maybe that'll be kind of the key to unlocking it. Jason?
Structuring basically like the reward. I mean, we get referrals all across the board. If it's a bathroom or a house, probably deserves a little more for a house. So we need to probably say what it is so it's not just me coming up with whatever I feel like today.
Yes.
That's kind of how it goes.
Don't overthink it. Because sometimes we can be like, well, if it's a bigger project, let's do this, or maybe we'll do that. It's similar with like an end of project gift. I think it's a good touch to do a little gift at the end. But if we try to customize a basket based on their needs and this and that, now all of a sudden it's become a big ordeal. For you, yes, maybe you have, this is what we do when it's a house referral, this is what it is, remodeling. But don't go into, okay, if I get a bathroom, I'm going to do this, I'm going to kitchen, do this. Keep it simple.
Yeah, no, these are probably dollars. With under 100,000, it's this. Over 100,
Fair enough.
Then I don't have to do it myself. So I can say, hey guys, guess what? This is what you're supposed to do.
Boom, work the process. Yeah,
I mean,
good.
go to the call. That's important, like something personal.
Good. What are some other takeaways?
Just one comment.
Yeah.
I got a gift in the mail from somebody, and I had said good things about it, but I never got why I got this. I just got it. And, I mean, I knew who it was from, but I don't know why.
Right.
Was it because I posted a nice thing about them on Facebook, or was it because, one of my people that I know actually contacted
Right.
them?
Thank you so much for referring so-and-so.
I just got,
Yeah.
an invoice, and matter of fact, so it was for invisible fencing, and I got some batteries for my dog's collar, and they gave me an invoice and said, thanks very much, paid in full. Okay,
Yeah, why?
in a thank you card. So they're telling me how much it was.
They wanted you to know
It
it
was
was from your
not
next
paying
door
for
neighbor
it,
because he
but-
was tired of his dog
Yeah.
coming on your. His
Gotcha.
And I'm going like.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I always do that
So
with my wife's
I would
gifts,
just say
too, is
be
like the
specific,
receipt.
hey, John, thanks for the referral for the bathroom or the kitchen or anyway, it just helps them to know what you're
Love it.
talking about.
Give me 3 more takeaways.
Ask for reviews.
Ask for reviews. In particular, should you get them on Houzz?
That's where I asked for.
Before Google?
We did all 3.
That's where I asked
Facebook, Google, and House.
We do that.
Okay.
We do Home Advisor too.
Okay. The reason I asked is if a lot of times Houzz is a little easier, just like they log in and do it. Google, the only hurdle is you have to have a login for Google, which by the way, if they have an @gmail.com email address, that means they already have an account, which makes it super easy for them. It's a little hack like, oh, who should I send this to? Oh, there's 10 of my clients who have a Gmail, start with them. Just make sure if you start asking for it in all these different places and you're not getting them on Google, then pause what you're doing. Just focus on Google. Get to 12. 12 is kind of the magic number, at least where it starts to show up a little bit differently in Google.
Time.
Cool. All right. I kind of want to do sales process last just to make Russ wait, but we're going to do sales process next. So 15 minutes on the clock, and we'll get into this. All right, so when it comes to the sales process side of things, what we're talking about here is we've generated a lead through marketing. How can we turn more of our leads into paying projects? I think a lot of times if we need to drum up business, we kind of are like, man, we need to generate more leads. That's like our natural thing that we think of, where a lot of times if we sit there and go, wait a minute, how can I increase my closing percentage? What can I do to improve, instead of converting X per 10 of them, I can do one additional one. Wow, I don't have to, if I just improve my sales process and the way I approach that, it makes a huge impact. So I'll start with just some very practical blocking and tackling of don't pull out a blank sheet of paper when a new lead comes in. And the tendency sometimes is, well, I've been doing this, I know what questions I want to ask and this and that. Pull out a project discovery sheet. And if you want to write that down, I can send you a copy of one. Pull out a project discovery sheet. And you probably know the questions you want to ask, but what about that, how did you hear about us? When you're looking at the project discovery sheet and you have kind of the reminders of the questions that you want to ask, you're going to be much more consistent with it. Like a great question to ask on that initial phone call is, have you ever remodeled before? If so, how was the experience? Why would I ask that question?
Their experience level, what to expect from them.
Mm-hmm.
Who did the job for, and why aren't they using that person?
Yep. And that's the follow-up questions. Yeah, tell me about the experience. Well, it ended up being we were fine and the kitchen turned out okay. Well, tell me more about that. Well, it just took a lot longer than we expected. Or, we thought it was going to be X amount. It ended up a lot more expensive. Man, if I'm a sales, I am writing that down, circling it, highlighting it. That is some of their fears. That is some of their past experiences. I am going to be emphasizing how we approach the schedule, we get all the details figured out, selections made before we start anything so that this job happens smoother and on budget, right? By asking that questions, it helps us become a better salesperson, especially pinpoint some of their past experiences and their fears that they have going into a project again. Okay. So having that project discovery sheet and having those questions that you want to ask, a lot of times we just skim over that and we skip over that. That's an important part of it. Now, between the initial phone call and let's say it proceeded to an in-person meeting, are we sending anything out right now between the initial phone call and the in-person meeting? Yes? Okay. Why are we doing that? For those of you who are.
To inform them, educate them on our processes.
Yep. You may not be the only person they're talking to, right? And all of a sudden at the end of the initial phone call, you say, hey, something I'm going to send you over is an email, and there's just some things that I'd like you to review prior to us meeting, and there's going to be a document in there titled What to Expect at Our First Meeting. If you guys could just pull that up and take a look at that, I'd appreciate it. What's your email address so I can send that to you? I'm recording this, by the way, so if you ask me for the recording of this whole session, okay, some of that wording, right? But that does a couple things. One, it's about building know, like, and trust. I'm doing what I said I was going to do on the phone. It's a little thing, but I'm doing what I say I'm going to do. They get an email from us, and it's professional. It's talking about the process. It's letting them know what to expect. It's like, man, these guys got their stuff together. They're organized. They've got a process. All of that is going on. Guess what? Your competitors aren't doing it, right? So a lot that's packed into one little thing and executing that, okay? So getting that email out between the initial phone call and the in-person meeting. Another little tip when we're out at the in-person meeting is whatever your next step is, whether it is to review a design agreement or to look at a first proposal, book that next meeting before you leave that meeting. Book it. Get it booked. Why is that important, do you think?
Hold your
Tony,
line, hold your
let some other people answer.
It's an important one for me.
I know, I'm joking. Why? Go ahead.
Because it's in business today, our businesses, and all of us probably can testify to this, is we're not starving for work. We're busy. It's a very busy time to be in the industry. And if you let those things slip, or you let that scheduled time slip, then 1 week becomes 3 in a hurry.
Yep.
And you fall behind.
Yep. When giving ourselves a self-imposed deadline just works, especially when we're busy. The other thing it's all about is this phrase I'm using more and more called cycle time. When a homeowner is excited about a project, they're excited about a project. The longer it takes for you to get that next step going, move them through the process, that excitement starts to wane a little bit. There's more opportunities for them to talk to their neighbor who's using so-and-so. Now all of a sudden there's a new player in the game. There's all kinds of not great things can happen when it just gets drug out. When you give yourself a self-imposed deadline, if you're working on a proposal for me, let's say you didn't book a meeting, and you're working on a proposal for me, and you're just, I got to get to that. I know they're waiting for me. And then the worst thing happens where I call you and say, hey, how are you coming on that? Now all of a sudden, the ones you're working on, this is now the most important because this is the squeaky wheel. You feel bad about it. But when you have a deadline, we work well on deadlines, right? If you know on Tuesday you have an appointment with the Joneses, you might be feeling the pressure of getting that done, but you're going to get it done, right? So give yourself that self-imposed deadline and book that before you leave the home. Or if you didn't do that, at least when you're realizing, man, I've really got to get this done, pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm working on your proposal. Can we set up a time for Thursday and just have that set? I'll have everything wrapped up by then. Even that can work fine.
Keeps you at the front of your customer's mind, too.
Yep. Yeah, we can't over-communicate with a customer, right? It's very hard to do that. So it keeps you in there, lets them know things are happening. The worst thing is when they just have silence on the other end of the phone. Think about your own experiences with sales and with buying things. Like, you know what drives you nuts. Like, they said they were going to do it. I haven't heard back from them yet. Hey, how we coming? Just a proactive, even if you don't have like the good news of, hey, this proposal's done, or yes, this is in, at least letting me know that you're paying attention to it puts me at ease, right? Good. Tracking our leads. Similar to how I said, it's very important to track how people are finding us. Managing and tracking your sales pipeline is very important, okay? I think so often we follow up maybe once or twice, and then we just get busy and we don't go back and follow up more. Your sales pipeline should simply be, appointment stage. If you're doing design, there's going to be a design retainer stage, working on proposal, done proposal for, haven't signed, jobs in progress, completed jobs. For the majority of us, that's kind of our sales pipeline. Everybody's in one of those categories. And I don't care if you've got a whiteboard in your office and you've got them written out there. I don't care if you have a fancy stinking CRM, customer relationship management system, if you have an Excel spreadsheet. I don't care how you have it organized, but have it organized. Because if you have a list of your sales pipeline, you're going to follow up better. You're going to follow up more consistently. And you've got to be in a habit of keeping that thing up to date and saying, okay, who do I need to follow up with? Who have I not reached out to in a little while? Make sure our sales pipeline is organized. A lot of times I'll go and see one of my clients and there's like a stack of folders on their desk. And those ones at the bottom are getting stale. They get old. You're busy. So you got to get that stack into again, it could be a whiteboard. My biggest client doing $20+ million of residential remodeling work. You would think, wow, they must have their systems crazy dialed in. You go into their office, you know what they have for their sales pipeline, you know what they have for their production schedule? Giant whiteboards. Basic, practical, simple, effective. Don't overthink it. Start at the same time. I've got a lot of clients using software very effectively, right? But the message there is get your sales pipeline organized so that you can follow up well. Another idea related to the sales process is when you get done with a sales call, two things. One, send them a handwritten thank you card. But Kyle, I got bad handwriting. Stop it. Right? You guys are supposed to laugh at that. Brenda did, because she's office extraordinaire, right? Handwritten thank you card. Just you can ask me even for the script of it, but especially if you have a script of it, of just like, thank you so much for the opportunity to work on your home. Look forward to our next conversation. Even that, just simple. Especially if you have like a little script, you can just write that and then write a little sentence that customizes, it was awesome meeting Fido or whatever, just something, right, related to the appointment. You stick that in the mail. Nobody's doing that. Is that going to, if they get a handwritten thank you card 2 days after you met with them in person, is that going to be the reason they choose you over anybody else? Right? Could be. Man, attention to detail. They care. Like, wow. Certainly it's going to play a factor. Like, these guys got their crap together. That's about as practical as it gets, right? Nobody does it. So if you do nothing out of this, but you say you come back next year and I was going to say Pam invites me back, but she's retiring, right? Whoever invites me back, and you came up to me and said, Kyle, I heard a lot, but you know what's something I did, and I just really zeroed in on it? I just started sending out thank you cards. I literally sent 100 thank you cards this last year. Wait, I guarantee you will hear stories about it. You'll hear thank yous. They will have it with you. You will hear positive things of that. And let me pause there on something else. That's kind of tying into that of like focus. If you literally said, that's all I took. I know you talked about Google reviews. I know you talked about this. All I did was this one thing. When we are running businesses and when our business is busy, probably 90% of our time is spent in the business. In the business, like doing the work, doing the estimates, checking on jobs, ordering, scheduling, this and that. 90%. Now, 42% of all statistics are made up. How is not everybody laughing at that? That's funny, because last week I said 52% of all statistics are made up. Thank you. That's the laugh I was looking for, right? But probably 90% in the business. That means that 10% of your time, on average, is going to be spent on the business. Following me? This is on the business time, what you guys are doing today, working on the business. What we do a lot of times is we try to do like 10 things in our little limited 10% on the business time. Follow me? So we make some progress on different things, but we don't have a lot of time to work on the business. What I'm saying is, if you just focus on and say, okay, during the month of May, I'm going to knock out Google reviews. I could care less about anything else Kyle said or any other ideas I have. This is my singular focus for on the business time. You will be successful. If you go back to your office and you have 6 ideas and you try to implement them all, you're going to fail. That doesn't work. It's been perplexing yet reassuring and interesting to me as I've been doing this for over a decade, that as businesses grow and some of my clients grow, I'm thinking of one client in particular who we've done like annual planning with, and we create like quarterly goals, and like there's a leadership team and all this. What's been super interesting is as they've grown, the number of things we're focusing on each quarter or each year has shrunk. Less, more focus. Fewer things, more focus. Hear that loud and clear. Like, that's coming from watching a lot of businesses and me focusing on how to implement. I used to think in my coaching, you know what can provide value? I'm just going to throw a bunch of ideas out there and say, go, implement. Yes, you're hearing that from me. I'm throwing a lot of stuff out, but you're hearing what I'm doing. Okay, now, what's one takeaway? And you're hearing this whole spiel of like, what's one thing you're going to take care of next week? Because that's where actual improvement happens, right? That's where actual change in your business happens. All right. Good. So as I was saying, we get done. So thank you cards. Went down a little rabbit hole on the thank you cards thing, but can't help myself. When we get done with an initial appointment, the other thing I was going to mention is if you get back to your vehicle and you just take 3 minutes and just say what worked, what didn't work. It's fresh, right? It's like, man, I had an opportunity to, now when you reflect on it, you're like, wow, they just talked about how they moved here, and I don't even know where they moved from. Like, you missed an opportunity to build know, like, and trust there. Like, oh, where did you guys move from? Like, that could have turned into a 10-minute conversation, and they moved from where you used to spend all of your summers. Then you find out that you have a mutual connection. Did that help you close that sale more? Yes, right? People do business with people they know, like, and trust. Now all of a sudden we have like a connection, right? You do need to go to Russ. He's got connections in Alpena, and like one little connection like that could literally be like, crap, Russ introduced me to so-and-so. I had a BLB with them, asked me what that is during the Q&A time, and all of a sudden that has turned into all kinds of opportunities when you reflect back on that, right? That's how this works, right, is that stuff. So, make sure what worked, what didn't work. What worked, what didn't work. Man, I really botched explaining our process. Like, I did a crummy job of that. I need to practice that. I need to get better at that. What worked, what didn't work. By the way, that whole what worked, what didn't work thing, that's something you should do with your team when you finish a project. All right, guys. what worked, what didn't work. If you do that at the end of every sales call, you do that, ooh, Jim liked that one. If you do that at the end of every sales call, if you do that at the end of every project, it's hard not to improve. It's really easy to not improve when it's like, okay, sales call's done, moving to the next thing. Okay, job's done, we got to start this one tomorrow. That's an easy way to kind of continue in mediocrity versus continuing to really improve. All right, that's better. That means our 5 minutes. So let me wrap up this little section with one more thought, and then I'll ask for some takeaways. 5 powerful words. This is how we work. This is how we work. And what I'm talking about here is your process. If you're remodeling, if you're building, let's just focus on like a kitchen remodel. The majority of the time, the person that you're doing a kitchen remodel with has not done this before. Or maybe they have and it was kind of clunky, or maybe it was years ago. This isn't something they do every day, every year, right? It's something new. What do they have in their head? They've been watching HGTV. We can poke fun at HGTV all we want, but guess what? It has helped our industry from a standpoint of getting people excited about remodeling. The problem, on the other side, is they think it's going to cost $6,000 and get done in 4 days, and about 50% through the project, there's going to be a catastrophe, right? Like all those shows have. So what's in their head, or you pick up the phone and call them back, and they're just, hey, I'm interested in a kitchen remodel. What's in their head is you're going to schedule a time to come out. You're going to give me a free estimate. That's what's in their head. You need to educate them. When you get on the phone with them, hey, do you have 10, 15 minutes to talk? I want to talk about kind of you guys, your project, tell you a little bit about us, and see, what the proper next step might be. Right? That's different. But this is how we work. You need to teach them and explain to them your process. Especially if you have some kind of project development fee, a design retainer, even if you don't, to walk them through step by step what's going to happen is huge for building know, like, and trust, is huge for sounding totally different than anybody else. And we undervalue that. So when we talked earlier about kind of practicing, our story, like I kind of explained, you need to practice your process, how you explain your process, and keep getting better and better and better at it. And after you get that, if you don't have it written down right now, that's step 1. Write out your process. What is step 1? Phone call, in-person appointment. What comes after that? You're going to put together a full proposal. Do you email it to them? Do you present it in person? How does this work, right? Pre-construction conference, let them know about that. Wow, they're organized. They're going to make sure this project happens. Write out your process. It should be on your website. You could create, I just watched a video this morning, Josh Nelson, they killed it. He hired a videographer and he did a recording that shows step by step his process. It's going to be on his website. It's going to work awesome because it's just clearly articulating this is how we work. All right. So give me some takeaways from that session of things. Where'd my phone go?
It's in your pocket.
Oh, thank you. I wanted to check. Thank you. That was, I'm going to, Bailey, my assistant. Bailey, can you edit out that? Because that wasn't my finest moment. 10:30. I was just wanting to check the time. Somebody want to know what a BLB is? You got to hold that for the last 10 minutes for Q&A. Give me some takeaways.
Set an appointment at the meeting.
Set an appointment before you leave that meeting. Good. That reduces cycle time. It keeps the project moving. Handwritten thank you note. Project discovery sheet. Don't pull out a blank sheet of paper. Have a process right from the get-go. Even if it's just, you're a good example, right? It's like, look, it's just me. Like I know, I'm starting, like I know what to ask and this and that. Even more so when it's just us. We've got to have a process. Have it in front of you.
Just reflecting after you meet with them.
Yeah. How do you do that? What are the phrases? What worked? What didn't work? And I hit that with you because I want that to be in your head. What worked? What didn't work? What worked? What didn't work? What worked? What didn't work? And I said it 3 times, that way it's locked in. Because if you say reflect, it's kind of like, oh, that went well. If you focus on what worked and what didn't work, it cuts to the kind of what we're trying to do there a little better. But you like that idea, right? It's going to make you better. I mean, it's like anything. If I'm an athlete and I actually reflect how the game went, like what did we do well? What did we not do well? It's universal, right? Yeah, after action review. Was that a police thing? Tony cannot help himself. Any meeting, anytime I've ever had him, we are guaranteed 1 police reference. I thought it was going to be tough for him to do it in front of a crowd today, but he did it.
So much of it reflects back and forth.
We have a process.
the thing is that even if you have a process, you have to follow the process.
Yep.
So you can lay out, everybody comes in my office, we have a process that we literally sit down, we go over the process right with them. But the problem is that maybe I'll ask, hey, John, where'd they come from? Where was the lead? So it can be a process, but here's the biggest thing, you have to follow the process.
Yep.
And if you don't follow the process,
It's hard.
You don't have a process. So.
Yep. Good stuff. Okay, I think we're done. Final thought.
What was that?
You can't over-communicate with the customer.
Can't over-communicate with the customer. That is a good segue into our final section of things, which is what? How would you guys rate Tony's animal sound? Do you want more out of him? It was bad?
I think we should go like, get like time.
They want,
Jeopardy.
Tony, what I'm hearing is they want more.
They want more.
More cowbell.
More cowbell.
Okay. He's just the right guy for the job. Don't you worry, people. You just wait. About 14 minutes and 47 seconds from now, just wait.
I was expecting like, freeze, dirtbag.
Yeah. All right.
I can't use the language I used to use in those days.
Yeah. So where I'm going to kind of go with this of customer service. All right. Stay focused, people. Customer service is, I'm going to do it from a standpoint of how do you deliver, like, do we want satisfied clients or do we want thrilled clients? Like, they gave us, that was a remarkable experience, like raving fans. There's a difference between satisfied and like they're raving fans. Advocates, yeah, absolutely. Right, somebody that's like a referral is to remark about them. Like it could be like, no, they were good versus like, they were phenomenal. The problem is it takes a ton of work, patience, hard work, dedication, self-control, all of that to deliver a remarkable experience. You guys need to understand, and I'm a little jaded because it's like, oh, Kyle, well, you're saying that because all you do is work with remodelers and you're in the industry. But, okay, go ahead and line up any other small business, CPA, physical therapist, local merchant, line them all up and tell me, and then line it up next to a contractor or remodeler and tell me who's got a tougher business. Right? Like we're tearing into people's homes, like in their homes. Like we've got materials to order, we've got sales to do, marketing to do, we've got customer service, we've got permitting to deal with, we've got delays, we've got weather. It is a hard, stinking business. So if you ever, let me just reassure you, if you're ever wondering like, what the heck's wrong with me? Why can I not have this business dialed in by now? It's because it's stinking hard. It's hard work. You shouldn't have chosen this one, guys. Right? You should go back to college and get right? No, but it's great work. The reason I love working in this industry is like it's just full of good people, and it's because you guys really like to help people, right? Now we still got to charge what we need to charge to deliver a great experience, but just maybe that's just a reassurance. Sometimes when I do these mastermind groups and like, hey, what's your takeaway? A lot of times it's like, you know what? It's good to know that it's not just me. Like other people are dealing with issues too. So that's just me pitch from me. So remarkable client experience. Let me rattle through a few things. We hit on communication. Client communication reduces stress. It is much better to pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, I know you're still waiting on this. We have asked about it. It's not quite in yet. Looks like it's going to be in on Thursday. Or, hey, I know we said the project's going to start on Monday. It's looking like it's going to be the following Monday. Like those are not fun conversations to have. But those are conversations that the longer you put them off, the stress continues, the customer experience suffers. You just got to bite the bullet and do it. It's a very mature thing as a business owner to be able to do that. Those are hard calls, right? Was that a question or was that a yes?
Yes.
Yep.
But comment. I live by this, or our company lives by this. Call them before they call you.
Yep. I hate dealing with conflict, right? It's like, I know I need to call them. Eat your frog. If you want to ask me during Q&A anytime what eat your frog thing is. So that's one idea related to remarkable client experience. Another one is change orders. Deal with change orders when they happen. I sit there and watch and, we don't get them signed off. We don't quote them. It's like, we'll deal with that later. At least deal with it at the next progress payment. But if you wait until the end of the project, when it's been a little bumpy and this and that, one thing that'll happen is you'll get emotional about it and you're like, I'm just not going to charge them for it because I don't want to upset the apple cart. That's costing you profit. That's allowing you not to have the profit you need in your business, not be able to invest in people, marketing, equipment, whatever the case is. Deal with change orders when they happen. If you want to deliver a remarkable client experience, do it. You need to do that. That's something that I think plays a big factor in remarkable client experience. Third one is finish the job strong. Finish the job strong. I don't know, because you guys all know that 62% of all statistics are made up, but here's a statistic for you. You're still not going to laugh at that? Yeah, he's trying. I got a little bit. Huh? Is that what it is? Yeah. I don't know what percentage it is, but if I started the job phenomenally, but I am just dragging across the finish line, it's taken forever to get things done, punch list, this and that, the percentage of the customer experience and how their satisfaction is tied up way more in the final 5% than in the first 70%. How we finish the job plays a huge factor in our client satisfaction, right? And that just means just tenaciousness. You got to be a bulldog. You got to get out there. You got to finish it. You got to punch list. You got to attack it. I know that you need to get to the next job. You need to send the crew to the next job and start it, but you've got to finish strong. That finishing strong and really seeing that through and sprinting through the finish line is going to lead to more referrals. It strengthens your business, and frankly, it's just good business, right? So you want to deliver remarkable client experience. That's a huge one. Another one that's not kind of obvious, but that is very, very true, is you need to make money. If you want to deliver a remarkable client experience, you need to charge enough so that you can afford the staff, you can afford the tools, you can afford the equipment to serve them properly. If you didn't estimate this job well, if you rush through the proposal process and now you're sucking wind at the end and you're like, man, I'm out of hours, I still got 20 hours here. If you didn't charge what you need to charge because you didn't work on your sales skills to sell them on your value and your markup is at 25% instead of what it needs to be, and you're not making money, it's hard to deliver a remarkable client experience. So if you want to deliver a remarkable client experience, you got to charge what you need to charge. You need to make money. Okay? There's a full day seminar locked and loaded in 40 seconds there, right? Number 6, remarkable client experience. Job site, I don't know if it was number 6, but it's actually number 5. Job site cleanliness. People value that, especially when you're remodeling and they're trying to live in their home. Just putting some focus on keeping the job site clean. That might be investing in a build clean system or air scrubbers. That might mean just really saying, guys, it is important to us as a business. It is important to us that every day those brooms are in action. Right? There was a remodeler down in Kansas City who he surveyed his clients and said, you've done business with us. What did you value about what we did? What did you enjoy the most about doing business with us? And what he was consistently hearing was, man, the job site cleanliness, we just really appreciate it. You guys just excelled at that. The tools were always stacked. The floor covering, everything was just really well done. And he kept hearing that, and it's something that they focused on. You know what his marketing turned into? He became known as the remodeler in the area who owns the most shop vacs. Interesting, right? Interesting. That was a point of difference that his people valued, that really factored into client experience, and he really embraced that as a key point of difference. You want to deliver a remarkable client experience, little things. We already touched on, we're not looking for some golden nugget of if we do this, everything's fine. It's a combination of little things. It's Wednesday and the trash just got picked up and you see it at the end of the driveway. Is it in your culture, in your business, that your guys in your team, even your trade partners, not subs, they're not sub anything, they're trade partners? Catch me? Right? Your trade partners, are they trained enough to know that, when I'm on a premier job and we see a trash can at the end of the road, you know what we do? We go grab the trash can. If we see them pulling in with groceries and I'm just walking in, you know what we do? We set down our tool and we help. I see a newspaper there, I pick it up. Little things. I see they're having a crappy day. Now, this irks me a little bit because I'm like, job cost, come on, careful. But they're having a crappy day, and you know that just a little 5-minute conversation could really brighten their day and play a factor, and you take the time to do that. Interesting, right? Little things. All of those little things really combine. They're hard. They're hard work, right? It's hard for me to remember even in my business, I had a conversation with that client a week ago. They're really struggling with this. It's hard for me to remember to follow up on that. Right? But I can put systems, a lot of times what it comes down to with all this is dedication, tenacity, right? So little things. If you get your team together, and a great full meeting is just to simply talk about this. What are little things that we've done in the last couple weeks that you've noticed that people really appreciate, or that even if they didn't notice it, you thought was a good move? What are some other little things that we need to start doing? And you know what's even more valuable than having that meeting with your team? Having the exact same meeting 2 months from now. Having the exact same little bullet point on your team meeting agenda. You recognizing it, you going on a job site, seeing them doing it, and handing them a $50 gas card and saying, just between you and me, I really appreciate that. Culture, making it part of your culture that this is how it is here. You know what that does? That attracts people that care about that. It also repels people that aren't your people, that shouldn't be there. Speaking of which, your team. You've got to hire good people and you've got to get rid of the not good people. But Kyle, there's not a lot of people out there. Like if I get rid of him, even though he's a fool and he's undercutting it and his attitude is poisoning the well, and I just lost 6 months ago my lead guy because he was so sick of talking to that guy and dealing with that guy and he wasn't enjoying his work. But Kyle, there's not a lot of people behind him. You got to do it. It's too important, right? If you have a bad seed on your team and you know it and you've known it for 12 months, for 18 months, in the case of one of my clients in Pennsylvania, 18 stinking years. 18 years. I'm talking to them, new client of mine. We're talking through it. They just lost a really great lead carpenter. And I said, well, tell me more about that. Well, we had an intern who gave us some feedback on this. We lost that guy. All stems back to this dude. They still haven't had the guts to do it, to fire them. It's hard. It is. Well, the dad, yeah. Understood, right? No, this was just a guy. Like, we have kind hearts. Plus, it's the worst thing to do in business. It's the worst, right? A couple things related to that. It shouldn't be a surprise to them. Make sure that you are having enough meetings with them, telling them what's struggling. Firing somebody should never be a surprise. The other thing that's kind of an interesting thing, especially when you have a good heart and you're like, I just feel bad for him, I don't want to let him go, give him a severance plan that's kind of ridiculous. Like, it is ridiculous to give a lead carpenter a 3-month severance plan, a 2-month severance plan, a 6-week severance plan. Whatever you need to do to make yourself sleep at night and feel okay for that guy that's been working with you for 8 years and to put him on, to give him an opportunity to find other employment, right? It's just another thing that I think some people, when they do that, it's like, oh, wait a minute, if I did that. One other thought on that is when you are not always recruiting, when you don't have job ads out there, when you're not always trying to get in front of people and talk to people and say, look, we actually don't have a job opening right now, but that changes. As we grow, as things change, I'd love to keep I have an interview with somebody, I'd love to keep your information and call you. When you have feelers out there and conversations happening, that gives you leverage. The crappy employee has a lot of leverage when there ain't nobody behind him to do what he's doing. When you have other people and you're always recruiting, you have leverage. It's very important, right? So client experience, client satisfaction, your team. And I guess I focused on the negative part of that because frankly, I think it's very important, but man, hiring good people is also just as important, right? Continue to work through that whole, hire slow, fire fast thing. Hire fairly fast, like do your due diligence, but man, we've got to go through people to get to the good ones. It's just a fact. I just see it with my clients year over year. But don't rush your hire too much. Let me take you back 3 weeks. One of my clients goes, Kyle, like manna from heaven, a gift from God. I put a prayer out there, Lord, I need help. And the next day, this guy calls him. He's a lead carpenter, and he's like, oh, this is amazing. Like, I was on the phone with him the day after this happened. Quote, unquote, gift from God. Just talked to my boy Chris the other day. You know what the gift from God did 2 weeks later? Stole his truck. Stole his truck. In other words, background checks, drug tests, hire appropriately. Don't rush it, right? It's a pretty good story, isn't it? I couldn't believe it. He's like, Kyle, he stole my truck. I'm like, wait a minute. This is the same guy. And I quoted him back. He's like, yes, I said that. Yes, that's how. Oh. Anyways.
God needed wheels to get to work.
Guy needed wheels. Guy was so stupid that there was a build clean system in the back of that truck. And they found the truck in the ghetto. And build clean system perfectly intact. Didn't think that, oh, wait a minute. There's a $1,800, air scrubber back here. But your team, hire good people, get rid of bad people. And more and more I'm talking about it more and more is this culture thing. Like culture, like the attitude of our employees, like what it's like to work with us, what it's like to work with us and for us. That is something as leaders of our business, I think we kind of overlook and undervalue. man, you really zero in on that. You continue to improve your culture. You get them involved in it. You have time out of work that you spend together. You actually, care about them in a good way. Okay. How much time do we have in this section, Tony?
Got another 30 seconds.
Okay. So let's do, we got 12 minutes. Actually, we got 10 minutes. We're going to get done at 10:58 because that gives you guys 2 minutes to go potty quickly because the next guy's starting at, what time? Ed is starting at 11. So we're going to get done at 10:58. So let's spend the next 10 minutes, give me some takeaways from that little section of things, and or we're kind of combining it here, and or just some questions. Make money. It's interesting, right? Like how that impacts our ability to deliver customer experience. Finish strong. Yeah. It's easy to just like, okay, we've got most of it done. It's fine. But that last 3% that we just forgot about or that we'll get back to is...
Mostly you got the other people saying, when are you going to start?
Yeah.
When are you going to start? When are you going to start?
What a story to tell by saying, look, I know we said we were going to start on Thursday. We're actually going to start on Monday, and here's why. We are very close to getting this project finished. And same thing for your job. When we're the last 5%, we feel it's very, very important to get it 100% done. And in this case, it's just taking us a little bit longer. Now I'm kind of like, oh, that's totally different, right? We're just telling the truth because that is the truth in that circumstance. Good. Some takeaways or questions?
Give all my employees a severance package.
give all of my employees a severance package. That's interesting. If that was your takeaway, I know you're kind of being tongue in cheek, is they've got the leverage on you right now. You don't have anybody to replace them with. Always be there's that whatever a movie was of like always be closing, ABC, always be closing, always be recruiting. You've got to be out there. You got to be talking. You got to be trying to get other people.
We have you guys. I was just making a joke.
Oh, good.
It is a good idea because I tend to be nice sometimes. Like, well, I'll give them another month, and as you know, it's 6 months later because we're busy. And
Yep.
You're like, I still got this person.
Yep. And again, it's the impact that person has on the rest of your team that we undervalue it. Like we've got to make our place an enjoyable place to work. It's still work. Like they call it work for a reason, but we've got to make it an enjoyable place to work.
The hardest part is I have good, like as far as that goes, it's the kids that are the problem, but they're really not as bad as it seems because it's actually the older carpenters who aren't taking a half a second to give them any kind of insight.
Right.
They just yell at them.
And that's also where the rubber hits the road. Hey, bud, I know you've been doing this for 30 years. We got to sit down and we got to talk about this. Like get him as an ally, right? I need your help with this. I need you.
Temporary is what we run into. The older guys in their 50s, they're just like, yeah, sure, they're good for a week and a half. And next thing you know, they're back arguing. It's just a little tricky. It makes it complicated.
Right. It's management.
It is.
It's that next week when they're back to it, you nip it in the bud. And then when they do it again the next week, you nip it in the bud and you make a little bigger deal about it. And you say, hey, can you leave a half hour early today, Mr. Veteran who's been here for years and years? We need to talk. Like, it's that, like, sometimes you need to, it'll fix itself. Oh, it'll get better. Like, professionally manage them. It's hard, right? But that's what it is, a lot of things.
And then it's appearance. We'd be looking at the kid's toes hanging out of his shoe the one day, and I didn't even see it. My dad shows up, and oh, God. He's taking pictures of the guy while he's working. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, toes are hanging out. I'm going to document it. He freaked out, and now he's got new shoes. But it's like, he's like, why do you see that? I'm like, I got so many things going, I missed the little details.
Yeah.
But that's horrible appearance. I mean, he's in our own paint
Yeah,
shop.
I've got so many things going on, I missed the little details. I have Bailey as my assistant. She's working 25 hours a week, and she's been working with me, but it's new that she's working more fullish time. And I asked her a question the other day, and her office is over here, my office is here. I said, hey, Bailey, what do you think of this? And she started answering it, and then I'm like, I think her answer was kind of like, eh. And I was listening, but kind of working. I literally caught myself going, dude, you just asked her a question, and you're moving so fast that you're kind of wanting to listen while doing something else. And I physically turned and truly engaged and listened. I slowed down enough to actually listen. Turns out her idea was pretty good. Right? But we're moving so quickly sometimes, we got to slow down. Good. What are some other questions or takeaways? I seeded a question for you. Do you remember? Did you remember that, or did Tony bail you out? Okay. I feel like there was some no. I was gonna say, Tony, don't give it to him, but I feel like there was some no, like, and trust that just got built right there.
I was gonna write it down hand.
Okay.
I'm like, no,
No, we're good.
I wrote it down. I know.
Yeah, BLB. So when I was talking, it was Russ said, here, good buddy, longtime friend of mine, you guys should connect, right? So a BLB is a breakfast, lunch, or beer. And I just use BLB because it's kind of, you can remember it. There's a lot of potential strategic partners, people who also share the same ideal client as you do. There's if I'm a remodeler, it might be architects, might be designers, might be high-end landscapers, might be a real estate agent. It could also be outside of the building industry. Like if you have a lot of your ideal clients are business owners, well, maybe your CPA is a good strategic partner. Like he's meeting business owners throughout the year and has a really trusted relationship with them. So the thought is all of you have strategic partners who have referred you, who you have referred. If you did one BLB a month, that's good marketing, right? So that's what that BLB is breakfast, lunch, or beer. And it's just the thought of getting together with, strategic partners. Yeah. Good.
I think part of it, though, the cleaning up of the job site, you can't, because it shows that you care about, your tools are all put away. But I think sometimes when they're watching their TV shows, the homeowners are going away to their mother's house or something for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And sitting up. My people don't leave, and so.
Making it all the more important.
Yeah, so, and they comment on every single day that I show up, or my guys come in, they're saying, hey, thanks for doing that. We had, somebody wanted to come through and see what you were doing. And I've also gotten referrals because of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they feel like they can still have a friend who stop over and
it's not a mess.
yeah.
Good. Did I seed another question? Was there another question I tossed out there? Like, hey, ask me that in Q&A. Or that might have been, you said BLB? Okay. Frog, eat your frog. Attaboy, Adrian. So eat your frog. Here, let me give you an example. I had so the Eat Your Frog is a Jim Rohn, not the sports guy, but like professional development guy from the 60s and 70s. Who, is it Jim Rohn? It doesn't matter. We're limited on time. It's actually not Jim Rohn. I'll think of it. Anyways, the thought is, if you had to eat a live frog every day, this is a good place to end, actually, because it's such a silly example, but it's something that resonates with people. And if you actually embrace this idea, it's going to really help. If you had to eat a live frog every day, what would you do? Would you just get it done and over with and eat it first thing in the morning? Or would you be like, that's disgusting, I don't want to do it, and just put it off for later in the day? The analogy is, what is the most important thing you need to get done today that you're most likely to put off? One, if you can identify that first thing in the morning, that's half the battle. But if you can have the discipline and the desire to actually eat that frog first thing in the morning, your day will go so much better. It's going to give you energy. If you don't eat that frog first thing, it will drain your energy. It will distract you, right? You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. And every day we have something. Sometimes it's a little frog. Sometimes it's a big frog. Sometimes it's a conversation you have to have with a client or delivering bad news about that. Sometimes it's, man, I got to really call out my guy because he really botched that yesterday. None of us love confrontation. So eat your frog. Now that's how it's done right there. That's a professional. All right. Thanks for having me, people. This is something I'm very excited to tell you about. It's called Remodelers Autopilot. If you go to Remodelers with an S at the end, remodelersAutopilot.com, you will see all of the details on this. Your most valuable marketing asset is your previous client list. These are the people that already have know, like, and trust with you. They are your biggest source for new project leads, for referrals to their friends and families. It's important. And so often we are doing squat, zip, zilch, nada to stay in touch with our previous clients. Remodelers Autopilot was designed specifically for remodelers who are doing kitchens, bathrooms, additions, that type of work, as a very, very easy, turnkey, affordable, simple, excellent way for you to consistently stay in touch with your previous clients with a done-for-you email newsletter and done-for-you social media posts. It's $1 to try it out for the first month and only $125 a month thereafter. And it just works. I've been doing this for all of my remodeling clients for years, and it just works. It's solid, and it solves this problem of not staying in touch with your previous clients. Give it a look, remodelersAutopilot.com. Fill out the little form, and we'll talk more.